meeting started. The first item is the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Good morning. All right, consent items. Does anybody want to pull up anything off of consent? Yeah.
We did a update on the motor vehicle theft recovery.
Yeah, is that covered under the public safety action
Maybe
plan?
we can pull it out now. Let me see. You guys are starting so early. I'm not sure.
3D.
Yeah. All right.
But I'm just asking, are we also going to cover it under the public safety action plan?
We don't, but
We can.
we can add it to that part.
Yeah, we can do
So
that.
let's add it,
Okay.
let's add it to that, so that we can
So
get it.
keep it on
That's
consent, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then with that, we will go to general business and go to, so then let's go to general business and make sure that we add the motor vehicle theft recovery voucher program.
Public safety action plan, crime reduction. So you can kind of see here.
I apologize.
No, we're flying.
Yeah.
To say the chair came in hot is an understatement. She was
Right at 9 o'clock.
not 0 to
Right at
60, she was
9
60 to
o'clock.
120. I tell you. It
And
was,
I would have been on time, but Fire Station 9 got a call and was holding up the light out here.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Fire Station 9 is out on a call right now, just so you're aware, okay?
Now, like I just
I
said,
saw it real time.
did you see the heroes driving by?
Okay. All right, so on, the public safety action plan, you kind of see the staffing there, so you kind of see the, specialty units, you scroll over, you see the academy classes. We have an academy class getting ready to graduate here, shortly. We are excited for, the academy graduation in, just a few days. So we hope to see you all there. We're all invited. They will begin, our field training, and then graduate, field training later this fall. And then, looking a little bit earlier to the, 23-3B, they concluded field training, here just, about a week ago. So no rest for our field training officers. They'll roll right into the next class for field training. We still have, a pretty large class, going through. 38 folks that are continuing to go through. They'll graduate in December, and then we will start a class later this year. And don't know if you have any updates on that class, just in terms of size, and it's still a little early in that process.
Yeah, right now, starting the class that just started, the current one, again, like you said, started with 50, we ended with 41, which is the same attrition rate as if it was a smaller class. The other class started on May the 19th. It was 26. We started with 28, presently 26. We have another class that's going to start on September the 8th, and we do not have any numbers on what those are going to be yet. We also have a fast track. We modified our fast track laterals. And so in-state personnel, they don't have to go through all the processes. They just have to make sure that their policies and their certificates are up to speed. We've had 500 hits on that, people looking to come in. We actually have 7 people right now that are in the pipeline to get processed as far as lateral. So that's been a huge win. We changed the verbiage on it from lateral academy because many people are really apprehensive about going through an academy again. So we made it a lateral fast track, and we modified, like I said, a lot of the processes. So we're in a really good place with that as well.
Are we able to see the demographics on those 500 hits, mostly where what states, where these officers are coming from?
Yeah, I think most of them are internal. I haven't looked at that. I'd have to take a look at that. Yeah, I don't.
From in Colorado?
Yeah, that's what we're
Okay.
trying to get, because Colorado,
Oh.
we need to make it shorter.
Yeah.
We can take people from outside, but then they have to go through the Colorado testing process and do all that.
Discriminate us, those people that come from other states.
Yeah, that's what we're trying.
So,
Yeah.
Chief, what do you mean? So what training did they go through to learn our processes?
Yeah, they go through arresting control for our standards and our policies and practices. They go through the modification with the red dot system on their pistol. And that's really about it. It's a much briefer course than what has to be done. They're just coming in. The academy.
How long is it?
We got it down now to 4 weeks.
What was it before?
They almost were going through like half of what a regular academy was.
12 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be, yeah. So Chief, with this and taking into, account natural attrition, but with these numbers, even with this class that will graduate in December, what are you thinking as far as, do you think that with that by December that we will have at least patrol fully staffed, that we will have, where do you think we'll be?
Yeah, and again, to go back on the discussion, I don't know if the city manager did go into it, but I did look at attrition. So right now, our net gain is going to be 38 for 2025.
Mhm.
When you look at 2025, right now, have a 7% attrition rate year to date. It's projected to be 11. And 11%, I want to compare that. So to 24, we had lost 84 people, and that was a 12.3 attrition rate.
Wait, in 2024, we lost 84 people?
Uh-huh. And that was a 12.3 attrition rate.
Yeah,
And then in 23, we lost 97 people, and that was a 14.1 attrition rate. So right now, again, what we're projecting is 11% projection. So we're in a really good spot as far as that. The net gain is going to be 38, but then we're always losing people coming and going.
sure.
But I think our staffing right now, as far as where we are as patrol, we are authorized for 219. We are working 208. Anybody that comes out of our training cycle, I'm putting into patrol.
Oh, yeah.
But I do want to tell you, I am modifying that a little bit because I'm actually increasing our homeless team. So I don't know, but a year ago, I put 2 in. Probably about 4 months ago, I put 4 in. And now I'm going to add an additional 2 with a sergeant. And so the reason I'm doing that is the expectation of what's unfolding with the outreach center, what's going on with our homeless population, how we're going to navigate that. And so that's going to be one of the modifications. But all these units that we're putting in, even though patrol is still going to be in that hurt locker a little bit, these proactive units like a home team or a heart team have actually caused the call for service to go down. So we're actually having a decrease in calls for service because they're handling many of the calls that before were going out to patrol, the trespassing calls, the vagrant calls, the pandering calls. These teams are doing that. So that's what we're hoping.
So, and at some point, Chief, I would like to talk to you. I know that this homeless outreach team, was a priority for the mayor and Councilmember Sundberg, and I think it is very, very important. But what I would like to see is a retail theft task force put together. And so when we have some numbers for that, I would like to see something similar. I think that, the amount of businesses that we are seeing close in this city, and I don't think that we're gonna see it. I don't think we're gonna see it stop anytime soon until we put a focus on the retail theft. So I would like, but I do think it's twofold, right? I think that what the businesses are experiencing is issues with the homeless,
100%.
and retail theft. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So I don't want to take anything away from the homeless outreach team, but I would like to see a retail theft task force created in the same manner, maybe 2 with a sergeant, something like that. So when you feel that we have, kind of the staffing for that, I would really, really like to see the creation of that happen.
And 2 things in regards to that, and thank you for that. I really appreciate it. 2 things in regards to that we're focused on. Again, the homeless, like you've heard me say a gazillion times, homelessness is not a crime, but homelessness is criminal activity involves.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A lot of it is shoplifting.
Mhm.
And so again, our heart team has been able to, our heart team works in collaboration with Jessica's team and does the outreach, the abatements and all that stuff, but they also do proactive enforcement.
Sure.
So a lot of the encampments are going into, we're seeing complete boxes of TVs and vacuums and stuff that they have stolen, and then they'll go sell it for a very small price. So we have been writing a number of citations. There has been a huge enforcement component with our team.
Yep.
It's not just all about, unicorns and rainbows. We're going to make everybody happy because that's not the reality of what we're dealing with.
Right.
And so with that, they have focused on that. And right now, as far as our larcenies across the city, we have a 16.2% reduction in larcenies, specifically shoplifting. We have a 9.8%. Last year at this time, we were at 1,025. This year, we're at 925. And so again, these processes are what are impacting these numbers and driving that down. We literally have on our larcenies a reduction of 562. Last year at this time it was 355.1 or 1, and this year it's 2,975. So it's still, we have to get better at it, but these things are working. Another aspect is with our immigrant population that have moved in. Again, there was many of those that were getting involved in shoplifting incidences. I actually worked with the Consul General of Guatemala. We're going to put together a joint video that talks about, the impact of crime that can have on them if they're involved in criminal activity and what that can do as a deterrent to stop that process, give them education. So between those collaborations and those things we're doing, we are driving the numbers down.
Okay.
That's
And I appreciate that. I just, at some point, in the future, when we have the numbers, I would like to see a dedicated retail theft task force, like something that mirrors, the homeless outreach team. And one thing, you talked about the immigrant population. It was brought to my attention, a resident of Ward 1 asked me to come out and drive through parts of Ward 1 with them, and I did. And what is going on, what I'm seeing, and officers probably know this, they're probably seeing this every day, but there's these perpetual garage sales going on. And so I got out of the car to go check out one of these garage sales, and it's all brand new laundry detergent. It's all brand new toothbrushes, all brand new, bottles of soap, all brand, everything brand new. And they're having garage sales every single day. So, I mean, I guess I would be assuming, right? It would be my assumption that that's not typical stuff you'd see at a garage sale. And so, there definitely is. And that day I was shown three of these garage sales in Ward 1. And this resident told me that they have these garage sales every single day and they're selling brand new. No?
It's a code issue, so we can address it if there's an address associated.
Oh, that's a
If in
code.
our code, there's a limit to the number per year.
Oh, they
I
look
wanna
there every day with
yeah,
brand new
I
laundry
want to say it's
detergent and.
4, but we can look into that.
Okay,
It's a code
Okay.
enforcement, something we can
Okay.
address.
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but there is an ongoing, organized retail theft is probably the bigger part. And there is an ongoing effort.
Oh, absolutely.
That maybe sometime that it could be on the agenda in terms of giving an update on that, but I've been to some of those. And it's not just, and I know APD's involved, working with other departments on a metro basis because these people, go across municipal lines. But I thought it was very impressive. I think it was working with particularly major retailers, trying to retail shows, the ongoing operations that we're doing.
Yeah, and thank you, Marion. That's the one thing we completely understand that because that drives our numbers. And again, that's what's really challenging when you look at NIBIN numbers or you look at UCR numbers, Unified Crime Reporting, is that a homicide can count the same almost as somebody going into a Walmart and stealing soap or baby formula. And so what you're seeing, we do many of roll calls in the streets where we go to particular locations where the stores are at. They have roll calls actually out the street. We do a ton of specific shopping theft details where they're actually posted out on individuals. We track individuals that are prolific. Again, we follow those with our off-duty workers as well. So again, this is something that we have really pressed into because those numbers, when I talk about 567, that could almost be the same as 567 or 576 aggravated assaults. That's how those numbers count.
Yeah.
And so they really drive city and they drive what the crime rate looks for the city. And that's really important because when you're trying to get business or commerce for somebody to move into a city and you say, hey, I have a 15% increase in crime.
Right.
And then the majority of that is something as simple as shoplifting. That's why it's as important to me as it is to you. So yeah, we are continuing to focus on it.
Well, and I know that there's this regional.
By the way, we don't
effort.
have a 15% increase in crime. We actually have a reduction this week of 23.2%
Good,
reduction.
good. And I know that there's a regional effort. I've owned businesses in Aurora for so long that I remember the day when we had enough PAR officers that a PAR officer would stop by and say hello to me. Just walk into my bar and say hello to me.
Yep.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
So I guess that's what I'm talking about, wanting to see, a retail theft task force, because our PAR officers are spread so thin.
Yes.
And they're focusing on, a lot of other things now, a lot of other types of calls, huge trucks in neighborhoods.
Quality of
huge
life issues.
Quality of life issues, right? So I just think that dynamic has changed, but I do remember a day in the city of Aurora where a PAR officer would walk into my business and introduce themselves to me and say hi to me, and the PAR officers were more involved and more engaged with the business owners. So when I say, I know there's this regional effort, but when I say I would just like to see in the department, some sort of a retail theft task force put together, that's what I mean. Something like that, even if it's just a three-man team, just walking into businesses, just letting the businesses know that we're here again, because I haven't seen that in years and years, for obvious reasons. So that's what I mean. I know there's a bigger effort going on, but I would like to see something like what we have with the homeless team put together for retail theft is
Put it on the-
all I'm saying.
Take a look at, make sure we look at it and evaluate it without
Yeah.
question, 100%.
Cause that used to happen all the time. A PAR officer would come in and introduce themselves to me and shake my hand, and I knew who my PAR officer was as a business owner. So I guess that's what I'm saying with that.
Item 2, we'll stay on that same topic, is the crime rate. So you kind of see the numbers there. Chief, I'll kind of cue you up to hit the highlights of that. Right before you walked in, the mayor did ask for, to make sure we specifically cover motor vehicle theft. So Mayor, you see that there. Did you have those are the numbers, the crime rate? Did you have additional questions on motor vehicle thefts?
You know what, if I could get updated numbers on the Councilmember Hancock's three-strike rule, I'd like to see. I think the last numbers I saw were over 1,000.
Why don't you, Jason's been sending out monthly emails to this man that only emails Jason and I.
Either the chief has them or John has them. We can give them to you right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give them to you right now.
Maybe we just start a monthly email, and you email council.
Yep.
Maybe we do that.
So Chief, do you have them, or do you want John's online if we want to ask John to provide the?
Let me look, and which ones you're looking for? The no registration? No.
Yep, the three strikes, yeah.
Okay, I guess.
How many vehicles towed?
Yep, got that right here. Vehicle registration data, see what we have in, I want to make sure I get the right numbers, the right pound. What we have as far as the vehicle registration summons, we have 135 for January of 25. We have, and I can give you total numbers, I can give you a breakdown of what they are. Total year to date, we're at 667 vehicles that were impounded based on the ordinance. And we're averaging basically 165 to 130 average on that. So 667 vehicles
Since January.
since January 1. And on total, if you look at where we are at on those in 24, there was 3,383. And then year to date right now is 2,444.
When do we start?
Those citations.
Those are total, yeah.
Those are impound, right?
Not
It's
just
violation.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I-
three strikes were the 667. And then the vehicle registration violations, year to date, again, we're looking at 2,444.
So my, and we talked about this last month, but these 667 vehicles that are being impounded, my guess is not many of them are being picked up.
Good question.
I-
That's gonna have, yeah.
Well, I asked this last month and I was hoping to find out something, but I have a lot of folks in Aurora.
We'll
who
resend
reach
it,
out
yeah.
to me.
Right after those, I think 2 months ago, actually, John sent out the information. We sent out to you all.
Yeah.
All the information where folks can go online, where we publish all those public auctions. So we'll resend it. I think it went out.
And if you, even if you could make a flyer that every single one of us could go there, I mean, there are a lot of people in Aurora looking for affordable cars.
So you're
Uh,
asking how many cars were
How much auction? That we
Yeah,
auction?
I mean, out of the 667,
No, I think a good number to know.
I can't imagine many were picked up. If they're towed for all three of those things, they're not getting picked up. So if these vehicles are going to auction, I don't like the idea of car brokers going in and picking up all of them when I am constantly, again, I guess maybe it's the nature that I work in, I own bars, but people are looking for affordable vehicles. And I think that this is a missed opportunity to, offer this to the people of Aurora first, to be able to go to these auctions and pick up an affordable vehicle.
So what I'll tell you is, it's highly regulated by state statute, right, on how they do that, and they're posted, and I think maybe we could try to get the information from them and maybe put them on our own website.
Well, but I would like to see that. That's what I
Okay.
said last month. And even if we could have comms make a flyer for us
Okay.
that we could put out to the people of Aurora and say, hey, this is the auction. This is the day the
These are
auction
the
is
Aurora
gonna
cars from our
Yeah.
impound lot, from our vendor
be.
that
Yeah,
these
this
are
is how
going.
many are going to auction. We can't say, what kind of condition they're in or whatever, but I think that this needs to be made. I'm happy that 667 were impounded under this law, but I don't like the idea that these car brokers are just going in and collecting all of them when the people of Aurora are constantly looking for affordable cars, whether it's for their new teenage driver, or whether it's for the single mom that can't afford a car or whatever. I want, nobody in Aurora knows about this. And I want to be able to,
We'll link up
otherwise
the
I'm gonna
city,
show up to the auction. and
we'll
go get
link
them
up the
all.
city calls, we'll get a legal notice we can put on and do that.
Yeah, I want this made public. I want the people of Aurora to have an opportunity.
And then in regards, Meredith, your question on vehicle theft also, just so everybody knows, vehicle theft right now, we are down 40.1% year to date. Last year at this time, we had 1,834 vehicles that were stolen. This year, we have 1,098. As the modification to the pursuit policy, we went from 5 pursuits last year to this year, we are at 90 pursuits. Out of those 90 pursuits, again, parties arrested have been 67. Parties with criminal histories, again, which shows they have a prolific nature of stealing cars and then going out and committing more crimes. We had a total of those with 51. We have 14 firearms that were taken off of those vehicles. We had 22 individuals that had active warrants. We had 24 individuals that were on probation. We had 7 that were on parole, 1 for the death of a 7-year-old child. So again, these numbers that I show here is a reduction of 736 less vehicles stolen with a 40.1% reduction in motor vehicle theft. Typically speak about the officer's hard work and speak about the implementation that people don't feel they can come into Aurora, steal a car, and then just drive away when a police officer gets behind them. That's been completely modified and changed. So again, the numbers speak volumes about what these officers are doing.
And I'm assuming in some of these pursuits, we're like hitting these vehicles at some point, right? So
Yeah.
some of them that go to the impound lot, I'm assuming may not be in great condition if they've been pitted, but I would still like to find out about the vehicle.
Now that we've had the period of time, it's gonna be interesting to see what those numbers are. I mean, because
Yeah,
we all can assume that a lot of them are going to auction or they're going.
yes,
to-
absolutely. they're
But
going
we
to
got,
auction.
I mean, we just need to know the
And
numbers.
if the car brokers are going in and they're the only ones that know about this, I think this is a huge missed opportunity for the
Sure.
people of Aurora to go get an affordable vehicle. And I want that to happen.
The city social media with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll promote that. I have people
Yeah, we
reaching out to me all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's, the people who know about it, it's lucrative for them, as you know. And
Yeah.
it's good, but again, it's highly regulated. The information's out there. We'll get it to a spot where you guys can share it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
just stay
make a
informed, yeah.
flyer or something that we can all share on our
Sure.
social medias, or
We'll get it.
I'll hang flyers up in my bars and, people will go. The people of Aurora are.
On now, so it's the whole online auction, so they don't even have you can go ahead of time and look at the cars, and then they go into, it's all changed
So
from.
please get us that
Yeah, we'll get you the
information. I
info.
want the people of Aurora to have an opportunity. Go ahead.
So Chief, the other day, one of my constituents called me, and on Island 225, there was a vehicle, and about 9 individuals were crammed in there. All their hands were out the windows. So it was very organized how APD took this stolen vehicle clearly and had folks on the ground the whole 9. And she watched this call me. She was freaking out. She's like, what is going on? And then I found out that it was a takedown of a stolen vehicle and individuals who were wanted, who all had active warrants. So just the way, I like how you're attacking this, how the department is approaching this, because to your point, we want people to know Aurora is not the place for this. Do this somewhere else. Don't do it here. And I really like the aggressive nature and the tactics that were used by APD to, adjudicate this.
And the beautiful thing about that one is that it was more than just a stolen car. It was a stolen car, but that car was also wanted for a homicide. And so the 2 individuals that were inside that vehicle were under investigation for homicide. I was actually at the scene of that conclusion. And there was 2 weapons that were taken into custody from that vehicle as well. The individuals that were detained were not the individuals that were, right now, we're still in investigation, that were not involved in the homicide from Ironton. But they will hopefully give us information or new leads to go that direction. And so again, when you look at stolen cars, when you look at criminality, when you look at victimization and suspects, it's all interconnected. And being able to have this tool that these officers can implement, it is changing the dynamics of that without question.
Very good.
Well, the message is just we're policing again
Yeah.
in Aurora. I mean, that's the bottom line is we're policing again. So,
Bring it
You're
here.
doing an amazing job.
yeah,
Don't bring it here.
okay.
Other questions on the crime numbers, chief? Any other else you want to highlight just on overall crime numbers? I know we covered motor vehicle theft.
The only thing I'd like to say is on the video from the Aspen Apartments that I showed, that we did the press conference on, that involved Venezuelan individuals and 2 male blacks from the community. We've identified 5 of those individuals now, so we have been working with that. We're moving forward. What we've also said, and that's also what I brought out in the press conference, is that some of those individuals, we're now doing network analysis to see where they're connected in other multiple crimes around. So we're in collaboration with our federal, state, and local partners to make sure that those individuals are accountable. And I think that we've really gotten our feet under it. And this is nothing that's going to surprise us or shock us. And I don't think it's anything that we have not known about before in the past. It's just we are now identifying it much quicker, much faster, and able to have an impact utilizing resources to do that. Another thing I'd like to bring up in public forum, because I think this is just as important as well. If I could, if you guys don't mind, there was an incident that occurred it actually occurred on 6/27/25. And I like to bring this up because especially when we're in a public forum, there was a suicide, and this suicide occurred up at Del Mar Park, and it got social media traction. It got a bunch of bad information that there was actually a lynching that occurred in Aurora. There was some community activists who actually came, videotaped the body hanging, made allegations that there was a lynching in Aurora, made allegations that the police weren't doing an improper investigation, and how they knew that within a couple hours, I have no clue. But all of that was false. All of that was misinformation, and all of that was supplied by somebody who was completely misinformed.
Always misinformed.
Very much so.
Always.
There was allegations that the body was hanging 25 feet off of the ground. The body was not. It was 18 inches off the ground. There was allegations that the rope was wrapped multiple times around the individual. The rope was wrapped one time around the person's neck. There was also discussion that the individual hanging had a hood over his head and was a male black. The individual was not a male black. He was an individual who was from Thailand. He was small in stature and he had long black hair, which when he hung himself, and he had a history of this, that is the appearance of what they thought was a hood. So basically, it was just a huge amount of misinformation, and it's stuff that tarnishes the city, it's stuff that tarnishes the organization, and it's stuff that I'm going to make sure in a public forum that I get out. On 6/30/25, the Arapahoe County Coroner's Office performed an autopsy on a 45-year-old male who died on 6/27. It was found the deceased in Aurora, Colorado. His manner of death is suicide. And so again, this is stuff that I wanted to clarify, because the misinformation that goes out by individuals, for whatever reason, they are trying to politic or change the narrative of what is not reality. I want to make sure that it's countered with the facts and with the investigation that goes with that. So that's just one thing I wanted to bring out.
And let's just hope that the Sentinel decides to write an honest story about the suicide of this man, and may he rest in peace, whatever demons he was battling. Very sad story, but may the Sentinel write an honest article about that. And thank you for bringing that up. And thank you for your press conference about the apartment complex on 6th and Potomac. There's a lot that I could say to that, Chief, but I'll go ahead and leave that one alone, but I appreciate you.
Okay, moving on to the third item, we'll go into youth violence. I'll look at Jessica over there. You want to give us any updates on our SAVE and youth violence program?
I'm gonna give the updates for Jessica today to help save her voice. She's a little under the weather today, so.
Go again, John.
I mean, I can only control myself so much. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I'm wearing the flowered shirt to go on vacation right after this. And gonna go have some drinks. So anyway, just really quickly, we had our third call-in that was scheduled, that we scheduled on, and because of that, we had fewer customs that we went out and we did. So we went out several times to invite candidates to attend the call on a voluntary basis. We had one person that came in voluntary for the call-in. Adams County did not order anyone to attend the call-in. Arapahoe County ordered 5 individuals to attend the call-in. And there was one volunteer, like I said before. So we've been doubling every time we have had a call in. Let's hope we can continue that success, keep on getting more people there. As we have our next one, our next call in is scheduled for September 10th. And this will be for juvenile candidates only, and it's the first of our kind. So that's the update for SAVE. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, if I could add, Jessica, we all had a meeting with the district attorney's office from both the 18th and 17th. Yeah, and I think 23rd went up too, didn't they? Plum probation, were they there? And so one thing that we talked with the 18th with Amy Patton was getting actual clause put into their parole conditions or their probation conditions that they have to attend this specific meeting. And I was just told last week at our crime control or our shots fired meeting that they have agreed to that. And so they are going to make that a condition of the response. And so where you hear it's voluntary, again, that's really challenging. Somebody who is involved in criminal activity, somebody who is usually has a high propensity of being under the influence to say, yeah, I'm going to voluntarily come to something. And so I think this is a huge move that will now force people that they have to come there. If they do not sit in those chairs, their parole and probation will be violated.
17th already signed off on it.
Yes.
They are
Yep.
very good.
Jessica, and is that with our partners? Is that with like the road called Straight and the,
Yes.
okay.
In the packet, there's a nice little write-up here. You can read it later
Oh,
for more detail,
okay,
but I
okay.
think just the good news there is,
Yeah,
in that call in, we had
Yeah.
our partners at a road call straight,
Yeah.
Circle of Love, and
Perfect.
it sounds like there was really good engagement. Appreciate the write-up there.
Yeah.
That, again, this is not just us. We have our community members there.
Yeah,
So I
good,
think it was, yep.
good,
Yeah.
good.
And so you can see the numbers there that we have for served calls of service. But one thing that we
Yeah,
have.
we're sorry, we're moving on to section 4 of our, no, you're good. Keep going, John. Just want to sort of let everybody know. Any questions on youth violence before we move on to our, crisis response and, AMRT? Okay, keep going, John. Sorry.
All right, well, moving ahead to crisis scenes now. So you can see the numbers there in your packet, and they're there. One thing I would like to share that we are going to be standing up our third AMRT team. The clinician just started, so we're just trying to get that person oriented and ready to go. So the good news on that is we will have coverage 7 days a week, not 24/7, but 7 days a week. On Sundays now will be covered on the AMRT teams. And so that's all I have to share.
Can you remind me, is that still just in Ward 1 or did we expand to the whole city?
That's the whole city.
We expanded to the whole city and now we'll have a third team.
13, yes,
Okay.
correct.
The big piece there, not to push over real quick, but if you scroll back up just a little bit, you'll see there was 68 follow-ups by case management. That's critical as we've talked about this program, making sure that not only are we responding in the moment, we're doing the case management to make sure that these folks hopefully don't re-enter our 911 emergency response system, that we're hopefully getting that follow-up and keeping them from that piece.
Okay.
Okay. And then again, some stories there, you can kind of see it, great work by our officers, our clinicians. And so, again, appreciate the stories, as well as the stats. And then finally, we have on our highway, John, I'll throw it over to Emma from, okay, all right.
So I think just highlighting here, if you scroll down a little bit there, under the number per year, we've almost doubled the amount. I think I attribute that also to having the heart teams. We're not having to wait for PD. I think the addition of additional heart officers will help if they are arresting someone. We don't have to wait to move to the next abatement. They're able to take someone in and keep moving. And we just have a lot more efficient process going on. So we really separated out the two working on abatement and then the two staff members working on outreach. And so we've got 94 people on our caseload right now, actively working on resolving their homelessness. And then we've had an average of 83 people coming to the Day Resource Center for overnight sheltering. So we were up to about 150 in the winter months. Obviously, the Day Resource Center is a different setup. So very excited to get the navigation campus open, to get those folks over there and get them resolved in a better way. Advances staffing up and getting ready for an opening as well. And then we just have some success stories around getting folks connected to housing. Just as a reminder, the vouchers that we have, housing vouchers attached to the navigation campus we're using now to be able to get folks connected to housing. And I'll just also mention too that our team went to Harcourt about 2 weeks ago, and we've had some good collaborative meetings with Judge Day. And we'd like to also start adding some of the Harcourt results to this report if we can each month. I think it's really meaningful, and they're doing some good work, small numbers still, but we have expanded signage. I think we added how many more locations? Nine more locations throughout the city. You've probably seen them if you've gone through intersections like 6th and 225 and a few other places, as well as some park and trail corridors around the city. And so just wanted to highlight the collaboration between our abatement team and outreach teams with Judge Day's teams as well as the heart team. And so have established some monthly collaborative meetings for all three groups to get together to collaborate. That's all I have for today.
One thing I want to say, Jessica, this resident that I went out with in Ward 1 to show me all these garage sales, they also showed me, there's an apartment complex called the Fellows. It's like right there on, do you know what I'm talking about?
The name is familiar.
Okay, so they said that them and their neighbors have called in several times, but they think the city is having a hard time finding this colony. It's located behind, you have to go the alleyway behind the Fellows apartment complex. There's like a compound of at least 20 tents set up.
Okay.
They said that they have seen folks from the city out there, like maybe trying to find this colony. They are kind of hidden. You have to go down this alley behind the Fellows apartment complex. There's a lot of weeds, there's a lot of trees, but in there, they have set up an entire colony. That I counted at least 20 tents. So,
John, taking a note, it's probably likely on private property, so that would be something we can work with code and the heart team, but we'll take a look at it. I saw the chief take a note too, so
okay.
we'll follow up.
Yeah, and if anybody has a hard time finding it, I'm happy to meet over there and show you guys where it is.
Try not to waste your time.
Hey, that's not a waste of my time, Jessica. That's never a waste of my time. All right.
And Mayor, did you wanted the voucher update?
Yeah.
26, and that's in,
Yes.
page 26. Or close, I think we're close to $1 million on.
Since inception.
Since inception, right? Not
I was
this
gonna
year.
say,
I love my city attorney, he's not good with numbers, but, so,
Waiting.
But he also has a nice haircut today. I mean, he also has a fresh haircut.
so there you go, but yeah, the numbers are in there.
Is it all approved? Is this
I mean, you guys look fresh. Good. Yeah. He can't do math, but he has a nice haircut.
Year to date, 221,000 this year. So it's since inception, 962.
And that's, yeah. mean, a slab of concrete and.
I mean, it does beg the question about with all the cars that we're impounding, do we still want to look at?
That's what I think we have, I think we should look at,
That's a lot.
I think that we
That's
should
a
look
lot
at
of
it, and
fees
then
right
we
there.
could really do something with these auctions for these vehicles to recoup the cost of that.
I mean, as we talked about this,
That, and just so you know, we looked at it, 1 to 10 year process on that. And again, city manager, if I'm missing something, let me know. But for net operating income, it would take, if we did it, it would take up to 21.7 years for payback period to get our cost allocation on it. Right now, it would come out to net operating income would be 1,051,051 for the first year. And then it would go to year 10, it would come out to 979.56. So the cost would be, but it would take a long time to get the cost back. But we're actually dealing with the tow company now. City manager is well aware of it. We're trying to get the cost down. John can articulate out some information on that. But there are issues that we're looking at to try to see what would be better to do. The cost of staffing, cost of all those different things, but we do have a report that's done on it, and I'm happy to share any of that with you. And if John wants to detail any more specifics, or if you need anything more specific, you can definitely do that.
What are you basing, how did you come up with the?
So we hired a consultant a few years ago. This is a question we had. Former Councilmember Sponik, and Marcano, actually, both those two had the question. So it's something we had looked at. We had a consultant look at it for us. And so there's probably, depending on how large you buy it, whether we use city-owned land, not city-owned land, it's actually probably between $15 and $25 million to purchase and buy a new impound lot and to do it. So it actually has a pretty significant upfront capital costs. As the chief said, there are potentially some operating numbers there in terms of, that depending on what you charge and some of those other things in terms of the revenues, and you could generate revenue. I always be very careful about not mistaking revenue for profit.
Right.
So,
So but that brings up the point. If this was looked at 3 years ago, this was before we put this into law and have the opportunity, we would have the opportunity ourselves to auction these vehicles off.
we
So
currently
is that-
do, we currently do get,
we get a percentage.
you get a
We get
percentage.
25%. We would get 100% of all auctioned vehicles. So.
You typically you're gonna have to hire somebody to auction it. We're not auctioneers.
And it's not big numbers. I mean, we were just. So by the way, if everybody had these rich friends that want to donate $15 to $25 million, we could name the impound lot after
Right,
I
them.
mean, look at that over there. Look at, he's got a scooter with a basket and a bell. I mean, he would be perfect right now to auction. He has a bell on his scooter, he can auction
Throw it a
off.
little bit in the pig.
But, we can look at this if you all want to. Again, I think it's one that I think it is actually part of our, I think it did make sense. You guys had the public safety, facility master plan, so it's in there, it's part of that, so it's something we can take a look at.
Okay.
There's some really positive things, but there's also some challenges.
Sure.
Without question.
Yeah, that's
We're
just a
kind of
big
held hostage a
bill.
little bit by the tow companies and by the individuals. So being able to do self-inclusive would be really nice, but it is a challenge. It's not an easy lift, and and then based upon how many other funds you do, like if you give other cost allocations, that's gonna cut into the profit. So it really turns it into a business, which makes it challenging. Like the allocation for the three for the buyback and stuff, if you add to something else, you'd have to say, is that gonna keep cutting into the profit that you're making on this margin, which takes 21.7 years? None of us will be here for the final payback on how much it costs to get it up and going.
And I think that study was done a few years ago. Good news, bad news is, the good news is, a lot of those vehicles and those numbers were based off of when motor vehicle theft was through the roof.
Right.
And so the good news is we're bringing those numbers down. The bad news
Yeah.
is, from a revenue standpoint, we're bringing those numbers down.
Well, also, yeah, but also now we would have a lot of vehicles to auction off that we didn't have before because this law wasn't in place. So maybe we should do those.
We're kind of at that, I'll tell you, just when cities look at doing this, I mean, it's all about size, right? And I think we're right on the cusp, but
Yeah,
I mean, I think right now, I think we're losing money, but I think in 5 or 10 years, as we grow and our, whatever, then we'll start. But again, it's when council wants to pull the trigger
right.
to do it. And it is, as Chief said, and Jason said, it is a significant investment, but it's a lot
I know
of
this
land.
place in the city where we have this $26 million piece of concrete that sits practically empty.
And it looks like a parking garage,
And it
right?
looks like a parking garage. I'm just saying that we could maybe do
Yeah.
something with that. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Sprinkle my dust your way. Anything else?
That's all we had. Unless you got, then that, obviously, that's, for me, I know you've got the chief here, you've got.
I was gonna say miscellaneous matters for consideration. I know Chief Otten has at least 10 minutes of.
10?
I know you do.
Very generous of you.
Well, I know you want
You don't get
20.
10.
I know you want 20, but we can spare 10.
Thank you, you're the best. Just a couple of things. We looked at the Fourth of July numbers based on last year. We had about a 6.3% reduction in our overall call volume. We were happy that we didn't have two alarm fires simultaneously this year, so resources were pretty strong throughout the event. We did have 22 fires. 16 of those were vegetation fires, which is pretty predictable. I think it was fewer than last year, largely because of the rain that we've gotten. And so the fuel's still green. We had 2 dumpster fires, 3 car fires, and then 2 working structure fires, but none of those went to multiple alarms. So that's a positive, I think, and our resources were solid throughout. We continue to track violence against our first responders. As you probably saw in Idaho, there was a pretty significant incident where 3 firefighters were shot or killed. They were ambushed during a fire call. If you'll recall, last year, we had that shooting. We came very close to having something similar happen when the fire was set and the person shot the Falcon ambulance through the windshield while we had people operating inside the building. So we continue to track those numbers. Over the past 12 months, we've had over 500 occurrences of violence against our first responders. Nearly 70% of those were directed at the members of our organization. And about a third of those impacted or impeded our operations. And so prevented us from getting medical care to somebody in a timely manner, or prevented us from moving quickly to put out the fire. And then 16 of those resulted in either property damage or injury to our person. So we continue to track that. We look for ways in high risk events that we know are going to be high risk to protect our folks. And we were happy to partner with HCA Health One, who donated ballistic vests to our new Battalion 5 positions. If you'll recall, we established those to really help be a liaison for high-risk calls with PD. And so we've deployed those with the EMS battalion chiefs to make sure that they're protected. This group also had some questions about wildland, obviously in the wake of the LA fires, and there continues to be fires out west, about how we manage wildland and the resources that we deploy. We pay really close attention to the conditions that are out there, and will up staff units. And I know that can be a little bit of a burden for the city manager and for our budget, but we will up staff brush trucks, and we are still modifying where we will up staff with 2 supervisory positions that are deployable wildland engine bosses who are very, very experienced from their deployments in wildland urban interface intervention. And so this really helps us strengthen some of that oversight and get that level of expertise out there when we need it to try and better protect our community. Another thing, we're working really closely with Tina and her shop to have an AFR captain assigned to communications. We're working on a job description really to help us be a liaison between Tina's group and our group, a subject matter expert of sorts that can bring clinical and tactical expertise and experience to the 911 center when you have those gray area calls, as well as help us evaluate our, what I call response recipes. So if you remember the right response program, we modified some of our response recipes to lower acute calls. We really want somebody who's digging into those calls, being where that was the right match. So pulling some of that data and making sure that we're tracking that and that's going really well. And that's all I've got right now, unless you've got any questions for me.
Well, I thought we've had firefighters in 911 for a long time.
We have firefighters that work as dispatchers,
Yeah.
but they're not functioning as a fire supervisor. They're functioning as a fire dispatcher.
Oh, boys.
So it's,
Okay.
they're filling existing roles where Tina has some supplemental needs or gaps. So they're not functioning as a supervisory position from a fire standpoint
I got
in
you.
those roles.
Okay.
This will formalize that, and really, we're working right now to refine, what data sets are they really gonna be looking at, and how do they integrate in times where there's a really high volume of incidents that are going on as we take over that city coordinator position. So we're working through a couple of those. We've been through a couple of iterations of it and working to finalize that.
Okay. Do we have any, with this, flood that just happened in Texas, we have the Aurora Reservoir, we have Cherry Creek. Are we at any risk? Does anybody know of ever, I know the last one in Texas was in 1900, I think is what they said, but do we have any risk at all of any of our bodies of water ever having a flash flood like this?
So we've had flooding in, Aurora. I think the example I'll bring is 2013. So, a lot of folks remember the flooding in 2013. They point to, Lyons and, Boulder Creek. You actually go back and look at the rainfall totals. That was certainly a major area where they had over 100-year flood event, or rainfall event up there. Actually, there were parts of Aurora that also had it over 100-year flood event. So you may not remember in 2013, we had Utah Park. We had significant portions of roads that were washed out.
That, but we didn't have any, I don't think we had any fatalities or anything like that. I think it
No,
was
and so, and I think, but to your point, in terms of flash flooding, I don't think we have any areas of high risk that are
that could
really.
happen like
That,
that.
again,
Okay.
there's always that risk, but I think in terms of, those high risk areas, I would say no. In terms of the general threat profile of Aurora, in Texas, we have some development standards around here that we do not allow folks to live or have occupied structures in the 100-year floodplain. Exactly for reasons like this, that it is very dangerous. And so we work very hard to identify those. We have restrictions around, again, building or having occupied structures in the 100-year floodplain. So we have a number of things that are in place. Then we know you hear from developers. We do have a very robust requirements around our drainage infrastructure. It is costly, but part of the reasons for that is that when we do get those events, we want to make sure we have the infrastructure and then the infrastructure performs properly. Remembering back to that 2013 event, it actually exceeded our design capacity for the infrastructure in that. But then the infrastructure then worked as it failed to, or worked as it was designed to, in the sense that when it failed in a way that such was protective of life and property. So it essentially went into the streets. That's why the streets were not washed out, and so we certainly did see property damage, but again, it is something that takes a lot of design and work on the front end. But I would say that in general, we don't see a lot of areas in Aurora that have to have that same hazard profile that we'd see in Texas or even here in Colorado. Like when you look at some of the development again up in the canyons, think back to that 2013 life we saw in Lyons, we saw in Boulder Creek. Those are areas that are much more flood when you have a flash flood event like that. There's huge, rainfalls in a very short period. Again, when you're in the canyon, it channelizes those water. You get very high rises at a very quick time. But
I just was curious
Yeah.
if we thought that we had the potential to ever have something rise that fast at that level.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in the emergency management and notification processes really is the complacency that takes place within the community. There's all kinds of messaging about if you can't see the road, don't drive through it, right? When you talk about standing water or running water, we talk about flash flood warnings. We send information about storms with large hail. We get all these technology reminders, 3, 4, 5 different sources. And a lot of folks are just super complacent and ignore it. And I think that's really where there's a big problem with the risk intersecting with complacency and people thinking it's just not going to happen to me and ignoring the alerts through Code Red or through Weather Bug or not signing up for those alerts or whatever. And so I think it's just really important to remind people, especially in this season, this is wildfire season, this is storm season, this is tornado season, that when you get those alerts, Let's take them seriously, pay attention to them
Well, to that point though, this flood in Texas sparked a lot of emails coming into us, and especially elderly people, like very elderly people saying they don't even have a cell phone, they still have a landline. So the city pushing the code red, instead of our alert sirens going off. What happens to our very elderly who, I mean, it sparked a lot of emails to come in to me, maybe other council members as well, that our emergency management notification system is not what they expect it to be. So we're not gonna fix the sirens. I mean, I don't know.
Can I offer, if this is helpful for those conversations? So 911 still applies to every landline phone. So for your elderly population, they will always receive the phone call on a landline. Now, those lines are dwindling, but for now, that will happen automatically every time. Where it's tricky are the people who only rely on a mobile device. And so if they only have a mobile device, they must opt in to receive the day-to-day, like shelter in place for police activity.
Yeah.
But then also on top of that, for something like this, a catastrophic need, we do have the wireless emergency alerting system through the federal government that allows us to geofence and deploy emergency messaging to every mobile device that's in the geofence. And so for a situation like that, where we had like a catastrophic flood occurring, that type of reverse notification would occur. What people are missing are a lot of the day-to-day things that don't rise to the threshold of the federal qualifier for the push it out to every device notification.
like your Amber Alerts or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Those kinds of messages
Yeah.
that take your phone and give you
Okay.
the message. So.
Okay, I understand.
And then I
just-
think there too, there are some other options for in-home, like weather radios, like that are super inexpensive. And if you have specific needs with folks, let me know and we'll see if there are options.
The other thing I want to just offer is that, we've come to town halls with our computers and have helped residents sign up for emergency alerts. So our team is always available to come and assist people with that, HOA meetings or whatever you're facilitating. We're happy to help people get connected.
I just think, I think after this tornado that happened out east and the sirens didn't go off, that sparked this outrage, if you will, from some Aurora residents. And then seeing this flood in Texas just brought it back up. And so now everybody's,
So, yeah,
getting the emails again. Like, what do you guys plan on doing?
Yeah, we understand the fear. So I think we can be very intentional about addressing that by offering some of these solutions that help people feel like they're better connected.
So, Matt, we talked a little bit about the siren system a couple weeks ago in study session, and Matt said, hey, the sirens are never intended to be the primary or sole alerting process.
Oh, yeah.
And so
And I know that.
And I'll say that with this, because now we're getting questions about the floods, and this sort of highlights the limitations of the sirens, which are, my question would be, well, which one is it? When the siren goes off, am I supposed to shelter in place in a tornado? Or now if the siren goes off, oh, there's a flood coming and I need to get out of my home because it's gonna flood. Well, the siren's very one-dimensional. So I mean, this to me highlights the
Yeah.
limitations of sirens, which are, it is a tool.
Yeah.
But as Chief said, there's a level of complacency that is, if the folks are truly worried, they need to make sure that they're doing a lot of things on their side to, depending on their personal circumstances, to make sure that they're leveraging whatever technology works best for them, whether that's a weather radio, whether that's a cell phone app, whether that's some other things like that. Because if the thought that somehow a siren is going to keep them safe from all hazards, again, this to me is the example of, well, which one is, when I hear the siren, do I shelter in place? Or do I need to get out of my house now because it's about to be flooded? You see the point. And so it's just, a siren is a tool.
Maybe we talk about having like a public safety day or something where we get more people registered, or we talk to people about weather radios, or I don't even know what a weather radio is.
The federal government has grants.
Okay.
Weather radios too.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think this is one where, as we told you all at that study session, we're looking at technology platforms, we're looking at other systems. So as we kind of work through those here in the next, quite frankly, several weeks, couple months, I think you're exactly right. When we go to decide on that, we'll brief council, and then I think that's a huge push to
We
then
need to
folks,
push it.
make folks understand
They-
exactly how our system works, what they need to do on their
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
to stay informed and stay safe.
Yeah,
If the expectation is that a siren is gonna magically keep them safe,
yeah.
that's.
No offense, my 81-year-old dad would not even hear a weather siren going off. I'm just saying, for some of the elderly, I mean, maybe we need, my dad is not even gonna hear a siren go off. He's just not.
And you know this, we're building our houses, particularly out east, where we're getting new houses. We are building our houses more and more soundproof.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of homes that are in flight path.
Even if my dad's outside. he's not.
Yeah, so it's a challenge again, and that's part of this whole thing. We are looking at the sirens as a potential component, but it cannot be the only component. We have to have other things, and a lot of that also then, we still need our residents to understand they have a role. And if they don't take their role seriously, there's only so much the city can
So
do.
when we make our decision, let's bring it forward. Does anybody else have any miscellaneous matters for consideration?
I have just one thing, and if time, I'll speak quickly. Our team completed the very first full month of processing emergency police protocol. And we handled 13,343 calls through police protocol system. What's interesting about this is that the data now shows us that about 40% of our incoming calls were determined to be low acuity. And so what that is going to help the police department do is further identify pathways for those calls, for alternatives, and it gets into the granular information. So for you have an opportunity to understand with specificity the types of calls that are being reported to our 911 center. So we have that data now that's very granular. So it's the first month, but as this progresses, we'll develop some reports that help you understand exactly what the concerns and reports of our community are.
Good place is very similar to, as you all remember with Chief Auden and Fire when they did it, a year ago or more. That kind of right sizing the response. We're able to do that same thing now with police. Again, make sure that we're sending ops to those highest acuity calls, right? That those are, we're able to identify those now. We're able to track what our response time is, give that information to you all to help them understand. But then at some point, there is going to be that tough part. When somebody calls 911, they want to be helped immediately. But again, from our protocol, some of these are lower acuity calls. We do not have unlimited resources. And so at some point, we want to make sure we're taking our first responders and they're responding to those highest priority calls. And so that there's going to be some discussions, there's going to be some modifications in terms of how we're providing resources to some of those calls. We'll keep you all informed on that. The good news there is that now we have that ability to make sure that for those crimes in progress, those violent crimes in progress, those most dangerous calls, Chief has identified those. He sent out clear direction to his folks. We're going to get there. We're going to get there quickly, and we're going to take care of it.
The last thing I have to say is that I want to mention the life of Caitlin Weaver, 24-year-old Aurora resident who was murdered by a 15-year-old who should not have even been in this country last summer. And for the police and the firefighters who showed up to that call, I can't even imagine what they saw and what they came across. The punishment for this 15-year-old individual who was doing 90 in a 45 and murdered 24-year-old rural resident Caitlin Weaver was 3 years probation. I find this unacceptable. Amy Patton will have been in office 6 months this coming Monday, July 14th, which makes her eligible to be recalled. I do plan on honoring the life of Caitlin Weaver. I am in contact with Caitlin Weaver's entire family. Most of them live in Aurora, and justice will be served one way or another. And that will begin this coming Monday, July 14th. And with that, I would like to confirm our next meeting will be August 14th, 9 a.m. right here. This meeting is adjourned.